The execution broadcasts arrived during Ambassador Chen's morning coffee, which seemed fitting in the way that disasters always do. 50,000 confirmed terminated, the Zelthani overseer announced through the translation matrix, its voice carrying the same inflection most beings reserved for weather reports. Mercy Protocol 77 Alpha has concluded successfully. Population density reduced to optimal parameters. Chen set down her cup with the deliberate care of someone trying not to throw it across the room. Around the lunar station observation deck, the usual collection of diplomatic staff continued their morning routines. Korthak trade representatives, calculating shipping routes, Vespari cultural attachés composing poetry about stellar phenomena, and a handful of other species conducting the mundane business of keeping 47 civilizations from accidentally destroying each other. Did anyone else just hear that? Chen's voice cut through the ambient chatter with the sharp precision of someone who'd spent 20 years in diplomatic service and had never quite learned to hide her reactions. Velthen, the Korthak trade representative, looked up from his holographic spreadsheets with the patient expression of a being who dealt with human emotional volatility for far too long. The Zelthani population management broadcast. Yes, Ambassador Chen. Quite efficient. They completed the cycle 2 days ahead of schedule. Population management. Chen repeated the words as if they were a foreign concept, which she supposed they were. They just executed 50,000 people. 50,000 excess individuals, corrected Velthan, his mandibles clicking in what passed for mild confusion among his species. The Zelthani breeding protocols resulted in unsustainable population density. The Mercy Protocol restored balance. This is standard procedure. The Vespari attaché, singing Wind Through Crystals, who insisted everyone call her Wind because she found human linguistic limitations endearing, fluttered her iridescent wings in what Chen had learned was their equivalent of a shrug. The Zelthani have utilized population control measures for over 3,000 years. Their society functions at 97% efficiency. This is well documented. Chen stood, her chair scraping against the deck plating with a sound that made several aliens flinch. Efficiency? They broadcast the execution of 50,000 sentient beings like it was a sporting event. There were children in those groups, young Zelthani who had not yet reached productive capacity, Velthan agreed, consulting his datapad. Statistically speaking, their removal prevents future resource strain and eliminates the need for more extensive population corrections later. The Zelthani have calculated that early intervention reduces overall suffering by 43%. Reduces suffering. Chen's laugh carried no humor whatsoever. By killing children, Win's antennae twitched in patterns that Chen's translation implant interpreted as confusion. Ambassador Chen, forgive my uncertainty, but is this not similar to your human practice of medical termination? I have read that humans regularly prevent the development of genetically unsuitable offspring. That's completely different. How so? Chen opened her mouth, then closed it. The question hung in the recycled air like an accusation. Around the observation deck, conversations had stopped. Every being present and lunar station housed representatives from 37 different species was now watching the human ambassador struggle with something they considered self-evident. Because, Chen said finally, we don't broadcast it, we don't celebrate it, and we sure as hell don't call it a mercy. The broadcasting serves an educational function, explained Velthan with the patience of someone explaining mathematics to a child. It demonstrates the consequences of population mismanagement. Other Zelthani colonies adjust their breeding protocols accordingly. The efficiency gains are measurable, and the mercy designation is accurate, added Wind. The Zelthani who were terminated experienced minimal suffering. Their bioelectrical patterns were disrupted in nanoseconds. Compare this to your human practice of allowing elderly and diseased individuals to deteriorate over years. Don't. Shen's voice carried enough warning to make Wind's wings fold against her body. Don't compare what we just watched to caring for our sick and elderly. But surely you see the inefficiency. Velthan's mandibles clicked faster now, a sign of genuine distress. Your species expends enormous resources maintaining individuals who contribute nothing to society. The Zelthani method eliminates this waste while minimizing individual suffering. Chen stared at him. In the 3 years she'd worked with Velthan, she'd grown to respect his pragmatic intelligence and dry sense of humor. She'd attended his offspring's naming ceremony. She'd shared drinks with him during the Korthak festival of calculated risks. And now he sat there, calmly explaining why the systematic execution of 50,000 beings made perfect sense. "I need to contact Earth," she said, "to report the successful conclusion of the Zelthani population management." Win's antennae swirled in confusion. "Ambassador Chen, your species' emotional responses continue to perplex our xenopsychologists. The Zelthani have reduced their resource consumption by 18%, while eliminating potential genetic disorders and improving overall quality of life metrics. This should be cause for celebration." Celebration. Chen repeated the word like she was tasting poison. "Right, because efficiency is the highest virtue." "Of course," agreed Velthan. "What else would it be?" The question echoed across the observation deck, bouncing between beings who had built a civilization spanning 3 galaxy arms, who had eliminated war, disease, and want through careful calculation and precise resource management, beings who had achieved everything humans claimed to want, and who couldn't understand why the human ambassador was looking at them like they were monsters. Chen activated her personal comm unit. "Priority channel to Earth, security classification Alpha 7. "Ambassador," Win's voice carried genuine concern now, "surely you are not planning to involve Earth's government in routine galactic population management? The administrative burden alone." "I'm involving Earth's government in what we call genocide." The word hit the observation deck like a physical force. Conversations stopped. Several beings made sounds that their translation implants couldn't pass. Expressions of shock, confusion, or in one case, what might have been laughter. "Genocide," repeated Velthan slowly, as if testing the pronunciation. "The deliberate destruction of a cultural or ethnic group. But the Zelthani terminated members of their own species, Ambassador Chen, using established protocols, with mathematical precision to ensure optimal outcomes. This cannot be genocide. Then what do you call it?" "Tuesday." The casual response sent a chill through Chen that had nothing to do with Lunar Station's environmental controls. Around the deck, beings who had become friends, colleagues, and trusted allies over the years of human integration into galactic society were nodding in agreement. Wind began preening her wings in a gesture that Chen knew meant contentment. Velthan returned to his spreadsheets. "Earth Control, this is Ambassador Chen at Lunar Station." Her voice carried across the suddenly quiet observation deck. "I need to speak with the Secretary General immediately. We have a situation." "What sort of situation, Ambassador?" Chen looked around the deck at beings who had shared meals with her, who had celebrated human holidays with genuine enthusiasm, who had welcomed her species into a galactic community that had existed for millennia before humans had discovered fire, the kind where we just realized we're completely alone out here. The transmission concluded, leaving Chen standing in the center of a room full of beings who had just demonstrated that they fundamentally disagreed with humanity about what it meant to be civilized. The Zelthani broadcast continued in the background, now showing efficiency statistics and resource allocation improvements that would result from the morning's work. Wind approached, with the careful movements of someone trying to comfort a distressed friend. "Ambassador Chen, I understand that human emotional responses are intense, but surely Earth's leadership will recognize the benefits of established galactic population management protocols. The mathematics are quite clear." Chen looked at the Vespari attaché, a being who wrote poetry about the beauty of stellar formations, who had cried translucent tears at human musical performances, who had once spent 6 hours discussing the philosophical implications of human literature. "Wind," she said quietly, "what if Earth's leadership decides that the galactic community's definition of efficiency is fundamentally incompatible with human values?" Wind's antennae swirled in patterns that Chen's implant couldn't translate, a reaction that indicated either complete confusion or profound alarm. "But, Ambassador," Wind said finally, Where else would humanity go? The Galactic Council chamber on Nexus Prime had been designed by committee, which explained why it looked like a cross between a cathedral and a tax office. 47 species had contributed architectural elements, resulting in a space that was simultaneously magnificent and utterly soulless, much like the civilization it housed. Ambassador Chen sat in the human delegation's assigned section, a modest cluster of seats that reflected humanity's recent admission to galactic society. Around her, the chamber buzzed with the multilingual chatter of beings who had been governing the galaxy since before Earth's continents had settled into their current configuration. "The emergency session will now commence," announced Council Speaker Zenth Moore, a crystalline being whose species had evolved past the need for humor approximately 10 million years ago. "The human delegation has requested immediate consideration of what they term criminal violations of sentient rights regarding standard Zelthani population management protocols." A ripple of what Chen's translation implant interpreted as amusement passed through the chamber. The hegemony representative, a blob-like creature whose name consisted entirely of pheromone releases, shifted colors in what Chen had learned was their equivalent of an eye roll. "Honored Speaker," Chen stood, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustic engineering. 3 days ago, the Zelthani Collective broadcast the execution of 50,000 individuals as a routine administrative procedure. Earth formally requests that the Council investigate this action as a violation of the Sentient Rights Charter. The Vrex delegation, a reptilian being whose species had perfected bureaucracy to an art form, raised one scaled hand. "Point of order, Speaker Zenth Moore. The human delegation appears to be confused about established galactic law. The Sentient Rights Charter explicitly allows for population management protocols that serve the greater good of the collective." "The greater good," Shen repeated, letting the words hang in the air. "Tell me, Delegate Sazvan, at what point does the greater good become mass murder?" The question produced a silence that Chen felt in her bones. 46 species, representing billions of worlds and trillions of individuals, stared at her with expressions ranging from confusion to what might have been pity. "Murder," said the Alterian representative, its voice a harmonic chord that made Chen's teeth ache, "implies the unlawful killing of an individual. The Zelthani actions were lawful, calculated, and beneficial to their society's continued prosperity. Your species' emotional attachment to inefficient individuals is noted, but irrelevant to galactic governance." Inefficient individuals. Chen's laugh echoed off the chamber's crystalline walls. "You mean children. You mean the elderly. You mean anyone who doesn't contribute to what you consider optimal productivity." "Correct," agreed Delegate Sasvan with the satisfaction of someone who believed they'd made an excellent point. The Zelthani calculated that maintaining these individuals would require resources that could be better allocated to productive members of society. "The mathematics are unassailable." "Show me the mathematics of a child's laughter," Chen shot back. "Calculate the efficiency of an elderly being's wisdom. Quantify the value of caring for someone who can't care for themselves." The chamber fell silent again, but this time the quality of the silence had changed. Chen could feel the weight of alien attention as 46 species tried to process concepts that their civilizations had optimized away millennia ago. "Ambassador Chen," Speaker Zenth Moore's crystalline form pulsed with colors that her implant translated as concern. "Your species' tendency toward emotional reasoning is well documented. However, the Council operates on established principles of logical governance. The Zelthani actions conform to protocols that have maintained galactic stability for over 3,000 years. "Stability," Chen said, looking around the chamber at beings who had built a civilization spanning 3 galaxy arms. "You call this stability? When 50,000 people can be executed because a computer decides they're using too many resources." "Not a computer," corrected the mechanist delegate, "a construct that appeared to be made entirely of living metal. The Zelthani utilize a comprehensive decision matrix incorporating population density, resource availability, genetic viability, and productivity metrics. The process is far more sophisticated than your species' primitive emotional decision-making. Primitive? Chen nodded slowly. Right, because caring about individual lives is primitive. By definition, agreed the hegemony representative, its blobby form shifting to what Chen recognized as satisfaction. Advanced civilizations optimize for collective benefit. Individual attachment creates inefficiency and prevents optimal resource allocation. And what happens when your optimization protocols decide that humans are inefficient? The question landed in the chamber like a physical blow. For the first time since the session had begun, Chen saw genuine discomfort on alien faces. The Vespari delegate's wings folded tightly against her body. Several beings, who had been casually multitasking, suddenly gave Chen their full attention. That is not under consideration, said Speaker Zenthmore, though his crystalline form had shifted to colors that Chen's implant couldn't translate. Isn't it? Chen pulled up her personal datapad and projected its contents onto the chamber's central display. I've spent the last 3 days reviewing galactic population management protocols. 17 species have undergone optimization in the past millennium. The gentle ones of Procyon, extinct, the dreamers of Tau Ceti, reduced to a sustainable population of 12,000. The builders of Wolf 359 relocated to accommodate resource extraction, all perfectly legal, all mathematically justified. The chamber's atmosphere had shifted. Conversations died. Several delegates exchanged glances that their translation implants interpreted as nervous. Those actions were taken for the benefit of galactic civilization, said Delegate Suzvan, though his voice lacked its earlier confidence. Each species was given the opportunity to comply with optimization protocols, and if they refused, then they were assisted in reaching optimal parameters. Chen stood in the center of the chamber, surrounded by beings who had welcomed humanity into galactic society with genuine enthusiasm, who had shared their knowledge and culture and technology, beings who were now explaining why genocide was not only acceptable, but necessary for the smooth functioning of civilization. Earth formally rejects the premise that efficiency justifies extinction, she said. We refuse to participate in any governance system that treats sentient life as a resource to be optimized. Ambassador Chen, the Altarian representative's harmonic voice carried notes of what might have been sympathy. Your species is young. You will learn that survival requires difficult choices. The alternative to optimization is chaos. Maybe we prefer chaos. The words echoed through the chamber, bouncing off walls designed to amplify the voices of beings who had long ago decided that order was more important than compassion. Chen looked around at faces that represented billions of years of evolution, species that had solved problems humanity couldn't imagine, civilizations that had achieved everything her species aspired to, and she realized that they were all terrified of her. The Council will recess to consider the human delegation's concerns, announced Speaker Zenthmore, his crystalline form now cycling through colors that Chen's implant labeled as existential dread. We will reconvene in 72 standard hours. As the chamber emptied, Chen remained in her seat, watching beings who had built a perfect civilization file out in orderly groups. The Vespari delegate approached hesitantly, her antennae twitching in patterns that Chen had learned meant distress. Ambassador Chen, Wynne said quietly, what will your species do if the Council maintains its position? Chen looked at the empty chamber, at the magnificent architecture built by beings who had forgotten how to value individual lives, at the seat of a government that ruled through mathematical certainty and had never learned to doubt its own calculations. I honestly don't know, she said, but I'm starting to think that's exactly what makes us dangerous. Dr. Martinez had always prided herself on maintaining professional detachment, but 3 weeks of digging through galactic archives had left her questioning whether professional detachment was just another name for moral cowardice. Another 12 billion, she announced to the secure conference room aboard the human research vessel Persistence. The Calith ran adjustment of 2847, entire moon colonies relocated because their artistic focus was deemed resource inefficient. Admiral Hassan, Earth's military liaison to the galactic community, rubbed his temples in a gesture that had become habitual since the investigation began. How many does that bring the total to? Conservative estimates? 237 billion sentient beings, terminated, relocated, or optimized under various galactic efficiency protocols over the past 3 millennia. Martinez's voice carried the flat tone of someone who had learnt to discuss atrocities as statistics. That's not including the species that were eliminated before joining the galactic community. Jesus, whispered Commander Park, their xenobiologist. And we're supposed to call this civilization? The secure comm system chimed with an incoming priority transmission. Admiral Hassan activated the holographic display, revealing Ambassador Chen's tired face transmitting from Lunar Station. Tell me you've found something we can use, Chen said without preamble. We've found something, Martinez replied, but I'm not sure it's what you want to hear. The good news is that every single action taken by the Galactic Council has been perfectly legal, according to their own laws. The bad news is that their laws are specifically designed to justify anything that increases overall galactic efficiency. Define anything, Chen said, though her expression suggested she already knew the answer. Species-wide sterilization, forced relocation to uninhabitable worlds, systematic elimination of genetically suboptimal populations, cultural suppression protocols, and in one particularly charming case, the complete digitization of the Etherian species to reduce their resource footprint by eliminating their need for physical existence. They uploaded an entire species? Commander Park's voice cracked slightly. Against their will, yes. The Etherians were poets and philosophers who believed physical existence was sacred. The Council decided their beliefs were inefficient and converted them to digital consciousness. Technically, they still exist. Technically, no one was murdered. The mathematics worked out beautifully. Admiral Hassan leaned forward. What's the current alien response to our investigation? Chen's holographic form shifted uncomfortably. That's where things get interesting. The Galactic Council has apparently launched their own investigation into their historical actions, into us. The conference room fell silent except for the hum of life support systems. Martinez felt a chill that had nothing to do with the ship's environmental controls. Elaborate, Hassan said. 3 days ago, a joint xenopsychology team from 12 different species arrived at Lunar Station. They're conducting what they call a comprehensive analysis of human civilization parameters to determine whether our species represents a systematic compatibility risk to galactic society. They're studying us to see if we need to be optimized, Martinez said. It wasn't a question. The lead researcher is a Vrex named Intellectual Clarity Through Precision. Very polite, very thorough, very interested in why we maintain hospitals for individuals who will never recover, why we support elderly populations that consume resources without contributing to productivity, and why we allow criminals to live in correctional facilities instead of simply eliminating them. Commander Park made a sound that might have been laughter if it hadn't been so bitter. Let me guess. They think we're wasteful, inefficient, and emotionally unstable. But here's the interesting part. They can't figure out how we managed to innovate so rapidly despite our obvious inefficiencies. Every major technological breakthrough in the past 50 years has come from human research. Every new art form, every creative solution to engineering problems, every breakthrough in theoretical physics, all human. They need us, Hassan said. They need what we produce. They're just not sure they want to tolerate how we produce it. Intellectual Clarity Through Precision spent 6 hours yesterday trying to understand why we waste resources on non-productive creative expression, when the same individuals could be assigned to manufacturing or resource extraction. Martinez pulled up her research files. That explains something I found in the archives. Galactic civilization has been technologically stagnant for over 1,000 years. They've achieved sustainability, eliminated want, optimized resource distribution, and they've stopped growing. Every innovation, every advancement, every creative leap forward has been incrementally small and mathematically predictable. Until we showed up, Chen said. Until you showed up. Human chaos theory in action. You solve problems by trying random solutions and seeing what works. You create art for no practical purpose. You maintain individuals who contribute nothing to productivity metrics, but somehow inspire breakthroughs in people who do. From their perspective, it's like watching magic. The comm system chimed again, this time with an urgent priority alert. Chen's expression shifted as she received the transmission. "We have a problem," she said. "The Galactic Council has scheduled another emergency session. This time, they're voting on Resolution 23 Alpha, which is a formal determination of whether human civilization parameters are compatible with galactic stability standards. If they vote no, they'll offer us optimization," Hassan finished. "Comply or be quarantined, possibly permanently." Martinez looked at her research files, at the documented history of species that had faced similar ultimatums. Has anyone ever successfully refused optimization? The Calithrans tried. The Etherians tried. The Gentle Ones of Procyon tried. Chen's holographic form flickered as Lunar Station's power systems cycled. "None of them had interstellar military capabilities. Are you suggesting we fight a war against 46 species?" Commander Park asked. "I'm suggesting we might not have a choice." The xenopsychology team submitted their preliminary report this morning. According to their analysis, human civilization represents a chaotic variable that threatens the mathematical stability of galactic governance. We're unpredictable, inefficient, and our success, despite our obvious flaws, is causing what they call optimization anxiety among other species. Optimization anxiety. Other species are starting to question whether their own efficiency protocols might be preventing innovation. The Vespari have had 3 minor philosophical rebellions in the past month. The Korthak trade unions are asking why they optimize out non-productive individuals when humans prove that such individuals often contribute to breakthrough discoveries. Several species are requesting cultural exchange programs to study human chaos methodologies. Martinez understood. "We're not just refusing to be optimized, we're making optimization look like a mistake." Exactly. And that threatens the fundamental premise of galactic civilization. If efficiency isn't the highest virtue, if caring for the weak and unproductive actually contributes to societal strength, if chaos and waste and inefficiency are actually necessary for growth and innovation, then they've been committing atrocities for 3,000 years for no reason at all, Hassan finished. The conference room fell silent as the implications settled. Through the viewports, stars wheeled in their ancient patterns, indifferent to the moral calculations of the beings who had learned to travel between them. "Where's the vote?" Martinez asked. 72 hours, Chen replied. "And there's one more thing. Intellectual clarity through precision asked me a question yesterday that I can't get out of my head." "What question?" He wanted to know what humans would do if faced with the choice between survival and principles. When I told him that humans have historically chosen principles over survival, he said that was exactly what made us too dangerous to coexist with galactic civilization. The transmission ended, leaving 4 humans alone with the knowledge that their species' greatest strength, their refusal to sacrifice individual dignity for collective efficiency, might also be their death sentence. "So," Commander Park said into the silence, "what do we do now?" Admiral Hassan stood, his expression grim but determined. "Now we find out what it really means to choose principles over survival." The vote wasn't even close. "Resolution 23 Alpha passes by unanimous consent," announced Speaker Zenth Moore, his crystalline form pulsing with colors that Chen's implant translated as inevitable conclusion. "The human species will adopt standard galactic efficiency protocols within 1 solar year, or face indefinite quarantine from galactic civilization." Ambassador Chen stood slowly, knowing this moment would define her species' future. Around the chamber, 46 civilizations waited for humanity's response to 3,000 years of established law. Earth's answer is no. The chamber erupted. Species that hadn't shown emotion in millennia suddenly buzzed with agitation. The hegemony representative shifted through colors that Chen's implant couldn't parse. Even the Mechanist Delicate's metallic form seemed to vibrate with something approaching distress. "Ambassador Chen," Zenthmore's voice carried harmonics of confusion, "you cannot simply refuse optimization. The mathematics are clear. Human inefficiency threatens galactic stability. Then I guess you'll have to manage without us." Chen activated her personal communicator, broadcasting on all frequencies. "All human personnel, begin immediate withdrawal. from galactic institutions. Recall all diplomatic staff, research teams, and trade delegations. Earth is formally resigning from the Galactic Council. The chaos that followed would have been amusing if it weren't so desperate. Delegates who had spent weeks calculating the costs of human optimization suddenly realized they hadn't calculated the costs of human absence. "Wait!" the Vrex delegate hissed, his reptilian form twitching with anxiety. "The Kepler Station research project requires human chaos methodologies to maintain innovation schedules. The trade routes through the Outer Rim depend on human navigation algorithms," added the Korthak representative, his mandibles clicking frantically. "Our efficiency calculations didn't account for complete human withdrawal. The artistic renaissance on 17 worlds will collapse without human cultural exchange programs," whispered the Vespari delegate, her wings folded in distress. Chen smiled grimly. 3 months of investigation had revealed something the galactic community had overlooked in their optimization calculations. They had become entirely dependent on human unpredictability. "Surely we can reach an accommodation," Speaker Zenfmore's crystalline form now cycled through desperate hues. "Perhaps modified efficiency protocols." "No protocols," Chen replied. "No optimization, no management. Humanity withdraws completely, but the economic disruption alone will teach you the actual cost of efficiency." The chamber fell silent as 46 species contemplated a galaxy without human chaos, human innovation, human waste, and human compassion. For 3,000 years they had optimized away everything that made existence unpredictable. Humans had reminded them what they'd lost. There is another option," the Altarian representative said hesitantly. "Perhaps the efficiency protocols themselves require optimization." Chen raised an eyebrow. "Meaning? Perhaps the galaxy would benefit from designated chaos zones, worlds where inefficiency is permitted, where species can exist without optimization requirements. Sanctuary worlds," Chen said. "For refugees from efficiency," agreed the Vespari delegate quietly. Chen looked around the chamber at beings who had built a perfect civilization and discovered it was perfectly sterile. Species that had achieved everything they thought they wanted and realized they needed what humans refused to surrender. "Earth will consider establishing sanctuary worlds," she said finally, "for any being who chooses compassion over calculation." The irony was almost perfect. The galaxy that had planned to optimize humanity would instead be asking humanity to save them from their own optimization. As Chen left the chamber, she could hear the debates beginning behind her. 46 species arguing about the mathematics of mercy, the efficiency of inefficiency, and the terrible possibility that chaos might be more valuable than order. The mercy protocol, it turned out, worked both ways.